Alright, so I finished my feather sand. I don't even want to touch it again. It's nice and even. It all looks good to me. And when I look at it, I imagine my stain going on it and my sealer coat and see what I'm going to see. I think it's going to turn out pretty well. So now my next step after this, now we're going to hit all my edges by hand sand block. And I'm gonna I have some putty to deal with on these edges, not much, but there is some. So I'm gonna, this has already been kind of sanded, just at rough state. And then we just did our putty work just to get it feathered in. And anyways, we're gonna sand that nice and flush. And then we're gonna break our edges and then this side will be done, ready for flip. So I'm just going to grab my sanding block. Of course, we always misplace our sanding blocks. Okay, so, and I'm going to also, when I do this, when I do hit my corners, my edges here, I'm going to show you a technique that works perfect, especially with any kind of veneer. And it's always consistent, and it's always, you can run your fingers on it, not a problem at all. So anyways, now, I like to have cork on one side. There some instances I want to make flush, so I'll sand with my flat side. And sometimes I want it to more or less grab the sandpaper. It helps grab the wood fibers and with the grits of the sandpaper. And it's a little bit more aggressive, even sand. So I use kind of light, moderate pressure when it comes to this. You always have to feel for the flatness with your block, okay? You start sanding like this, you're gonna start sanding through your edges here. This is exactly what it is gonna burn through first, regardless if you were doing it with the block or not. So what I also do is, well, I told you I don't want to touch that. So anyways, I have on the point, I put my pressure there on this point. That way, it sands, the heaviest sand pressure is on that point and it spreads out this way. So the weakest pressure is on the outside edge. So I try to also oscillate. I won't just sand in the center, I'll sand up and down. The center of this will go up and down like this as I'm sanding. And this more or less is on the microscopic perspective, it's more or less, that's my grind down for the whole thing, just as I would on this with an orbital. And then I finish it off with long strokes like that. So it all looks consistent. Everything's a 90 degree. I'm right-handed, so it's natural for me to be able to sand like this to my outside edge. But then, you can either go back pressure with this, but it's a little bit hard to control. So if on such a high grade job like this, I don't take any chances whatsoever. I want to make sure everything's perfect, no sand throughs, no nothing. So, except for good quality work that they're paying for. So, again, I'll start here. I'll just take my center pressure down here. And then I'll cross down. And then I'll finish off with this end here. And then bring it back. Feathering that in. That's nice and flat. So now, nice long strokes. Feather everything. Do that about 3 times. That's done. Now, before I move on, I'll break this edge. So this is pretty important. Very light pressure, like the weight of your fingers on this. Okay, so I'm also not sanding straight with it. I'm also sanding up on an angle, and we're going on a 45 all the way down like that. That's going to create our main break. And then I'm going to feather it out, and I'm going to be hitting this right on 45 on the 22.5 and 22.5 back on the 45. And doing it this way, especially on veneers, you want it to actually still have wood on the corners. So that's why you want very low pressure, but you want to shape it. You want to shape it so that someone goes like this, it feels beautiful. So, not much. That's like a jointer, right? So out of those little ridges that I just finished making, I smoothed them out and created a nice smooth edge. And now I'm going to do the 22.5. Don't let this touch, right? Especially when it comes the other way, then you got cross grain, so you got to be careful. And then back on this 45. Bob's your uncle. It feels perfect. No sand throughs. Every single time it will end up this way.